yourselves for hungry zombies, killer clowns, masked psychopaths, and chainsaw-wielding fiends. Spooky season is upon us, and we'll be your guide through some of Southern California's finest scare attractions. From nightmarish mazes to terrifying jump scares, we'll be reviewing every creature, ghostly whisper, and scream as we give you an inside look into the heart-pounding, bone-chilling world of haunted houses and immersive events. Turn off the lights, lock the doors, and join us for this spine-tingling special edition of Scripts and Screams. Now your hosts with the ghosts, Jessica Morgan and Chris Carter.
Goodness.
My goodness.
That's a very ghostly voice changer.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that
I
what-
enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's like a.
I feel like it's appropriate for
What we're about to talk about.
Well, so in case you haven't guessed, Jessica's back on the board.
What?
Little razzle dazzle going into this review. We're back, and we're talking about one of the fun ones tonight. Always one of the events that we put highly on our board.
I
right?
think we always love this. I
Yeah.
feel like, at least for me, I will
Yeah.
basically go to any event that these people put on.
Right. And in keeping with our tradition, we're going to vamp about it, and then we'll tell you exactly what it is. Although we should say, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what side of the coin you're on, you can no longer go to this. Their run is fully sold out at this moment. As of Friday, October 18th at 8 p.m. at night. Yeah, there are no more tickets for this event. They're fully sold out. It is a credit to the production that this team does. And like Jessica mentioned, that this is kind of high on our list every single year. And this was no different.
No, I agree. Yeah. I mean, yes. So even though we will talk about it, we will go ahead and talk about it in depth at some point. Just, maybe keep them on your radar for next time. Unfortunately, if you didn't get to make it this time.
Yeah, it's such a big deal. I mean, at this point, because people can no longer get tickets. I mean, we could just run the spoiler flag right now. Because I mean,
Why do you always want to jump to the spoiler flag?
I'm definitely meaning, and when we get to it, but I guess what I mean is that there's no point in. If you're listening to this, then you've missed the boat. Although you should listen to this, because if you have missed the boat, this is the best and most detailed recounting of the experience that you'll get.
I can't take it anymore. Can we just say what it is?
Okay, let's just say it. What is it?
It is Creep, LA, and Ghosts this year.
Yes.
Creep, Ghosts.
I mean, they go hand in. Do the thing. Do the
What thing?
ghostly voice again.
Oh, geez.
Ghosts.
Yes. See, they are upon us. So yeah.
Creep, LA. Oh my God, that's so loud. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We'll fix it in post.
I don't think we will. Creep LA is one of my favorite production companies. JFI Productions is really what's behind it. But when they do Creep LA, it's specifically because they're doing more of a creepy event, more of a kind of haunting, usually around Halloween. And then they do other productions just under the name JFI Productions, because they will help out promote a lot of different shows and things like that, which is really cool over the years to see that as well. And so this is kind of a mixing of those two.
Yeah.
Where they took Ghosts, which is CBS's Ghosts, the show, and we're helping promote that while still putting on one of their Creep LA shows, which we have been itching for one too, by the way. The last 2 years they went back to their flagship show, which was called The Willows, and it's still a very good show.
Right.
But since we'd been to it and we felt good about it, we just weren't sure we were going to continue to go to it. And at some point, it's still, you want to be a little more haunted, a little more scared, and we're always looking for new stories. And so it was exciting to hear that Creep LA was coming back this year.
Yeah. I think that some of the best, maybe the first 2 years we got here, we were able to attend what a lot of people thought was maybe their best show with Awake. And so
Yes, the very first year we went was Creep LA's Awake.
yeah, and that was something coming from what we had done, mostly the theme park haunts and smaller haunts, is to go from that to Awake was incredible. It was mind bending. And so
Yeah.
JFI Creep is always on our radar when they do stuff. We've been fortunate enough to be part of the Grad Bash, which was, you mentioned, they kind of coordinate promoting other shows for Amazons. I know what you did last summer.
Yes.
That was awesome.
Because I love it in here.
We do.
I fucking love it.
Funny enough, sidebar, we actually were party to Anna Kendrick and her friend that evening. We were in their group. So the 2 degrees of separation you hear about in LA, that was ours.
I think that was for their actual Creep LA, like the house one.
Was it house?
That they did. Yeah, because it was in the same
No.
location.
You're
so,
right.
Yeah, and it was very
No.
similar times.
You're
but
so right. You're
either
so right.
way, like we still, we're in the
Yeah,
group.
that was the Ghost Light or the Ghost House.
Yes.
One
yeah.
of the 2.
mhm.
But either way, we love him, and so to hear that they're back,
good.
yeah. So So I've never seen Ghosts on CBS. I hear it's great. It's on Hulu.
It's
I
funny.
think.
That was my thing. Yeah, was that? Yeah, right. I think it is. You can find it streaming. It is the only thing I hear about it is that it's funny. So I was like, well, how are they going to take this like lighthearted kind of thing and then go into what they do? So that was my concern when they first announced it. I was like, how are they going to do this? But then I kept being like, but if they start playing with like ghostly things, then I think they're going to kill it.
Right. The creative freedom is interesting because CBS, when they hired them to kind of push their show, I'm sure they had very strict guidelines about it. Ghost is a G show put on TV on standardized TV. So, and what JFI does in Creep LA, it's very not like they make you very sexually uncomfortable in terms of what they
do.
in terms
Well,
of what they like in their show.
Creep
like,
will always try to creep you out. And so they use a lot of things to make you uncomfortable because
Yeah.
that's what creeps you out, right?
Yeah,
And
it's-
they're brilliant at it. Like
Yeah.
they're so good at it. And so one of the things that especially like United States people generally are pretty uncomfortable with is a lot of sexuality, nudity, things like that. So sometimes they will use scenes of things like
I love
that
nudity.
just to you love nudity. All right, everybody. We all heard this, right? Chris, would hold on. Is there a quote I have from you?
I'm going to say a lot of dumb things.
Okay, yeah. Okay, just checking. I wasn't sure.
no more board work for you. That's it.
But yeah, we did have that thought where we're like, I don't know if they'll be able to do any of that in
Yeah.
this, but they still have so many other tricks up their sleeves,
So in nothing else, like the quandary and how they were going to kind of mix this was super, super enticing to see, right? Could they do it? How would they do it? If they fail, how would they fail? Like we've seen them be successful in everything they do. And there was no doubt in my mind that they were going to be successful in this run.
Right.
But how they bridge that gap between this slapstick, laugh out loud comedy with a laugh track on it,
Totally.
going into what they've done traditionally.
Yeah.
Right.
And then luckily, as it got closer to the event, they started releasing a little more details. They're usually pretty good about not giving away anything, but they did reveal that then it's an hour-long experience, but they have you arrive at your time and you will be just expect to wait until your group is called. And where you are waiting is where they set up their ghosts, the show kind of set. So you're walking into the bed and breakfast that like it takes place at.
Yes.
And there's a lot of cool little little Easter eggs for you to find and
Yeah.
things like that from the show. And there's like pictures and stuff like that. Definitely, it's very like, hey, take pictures and hang out and everything.
Yeah,
And
there's a
it's
step and repeat.
yes,
So.
they always do their photo booth usually for Creep LA, which was cool. And so and then they had like a TV setup that would actually do like show parts of either trailer or like last time
Yeah.
on or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
And we should say, as we walk into this location, it's a very cool house. It's like a,
Yes.
it's a classically like Los Angeles house. There's 2 stories.
Yeah, you could tell it's like some
wood
historic-
banister. Yeah.
yeah, kind of household that, yeah, exactly. 2 stories. They just keep you on the lower floor, but there's plenty of room.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was like a very quaint waiting room, so it was really cool.
Yeah.
I know when we went in there, and of course you have to check into these all these events we go to, and they asked us, when are you, what are your I think, what are your reservations under? Like, they made it very on brand with checking into a hotel.
Yeah,
Yes.
that whole thing.
So that was cool, I thought. You know,
Yeah.
they never broke the
Which,
mirage of that.
Again, Creep is like notorious for that. Like they're one of those where you start walking up to the location and you're like, is this it or whatever? And there will be characters that are already coming up to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's happened to us in the past where it's been they're already in it. Other times, yeah, it is going to be a little more straightforward, like let me sign you in and things like that. And because they do, I think what Creep LA also is good about is that they will always give you like a small speech about what's going to happen as far as like, hey, don't touch the actors. You know
Sure,
what
I
I
mean,
mean? Follow
standard
what
stuff.
they do. Yeah. And they always say, just remember it is, this is theater or whatever. This is pretend, this is fake. Like, you know what I mean? They always give you a little bit of that because of the fact that it's pretty immersive. Like you get
Yeah.
into it and you can get lost and you can get freaked out. Like there's things that can happen.
Yeah. Somebody got freaked out in our party too. We'll get to that as we go through it. But
yeah. So
but,
they
yeah.
do always try to tell you, just remember, you know, this is all pretend kind of thing.
Yeah, and what's great about it too is they also encourage you to, and not so much in this one, but what ones in the past, encourage you to speak to those actors because you'll mine information out of the story as a whole.
Once spoken to, though.
Well, yeah, okay.
They
once
do say
spoken
that.
to,
They're like, yeah, like speak when you're spoken to, you know,
like all good manners.
when you're prompted, because they also like, please, you know, don't be the person who's interrupting the whole show to try to make it about yourself.
Which
like,
is funny because, you know, we had that problem with Delusion,
Mhm.
another immersive theater event.
Right.
Yeah, so
and I always feel like Delusion asks for less words, you know what I mean, than Creep does. Creep sometimes is asking you like open-ended questions. Like it's not a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like they want you to give us a little, like they're kind of putting you on the spot. Because again, that's uncomfortable, right?
sure, yeah.
So they're good at that. While I feel like Delusion a lot of times is a little bit more straightforward. They don't want like a story usually.
Well, it feels more like a play than anything else. I mean, in
Yes.
comparison, I would say.
Yeah. But yeah, so you're in this really cute space and everything, hanging out. And then eventually they're going to take you across the street to the spooky party, basically.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think Chris might just get his wish now because I think that's about all we can really say before we really start getting into this.
It's true.
So here we go.
Stick around.
You know, it's funny. Somebody put on maybe it was me. The
Someone really smart.
yeah,
and handsome.
the first Purge. They put the movie on, and you hear the siren, and I'm like, oh shit, I hear that before. I've heard it before, and it's like, oh yeah, we have heard.
You've
it
heard
before.
the siren.
Yes, I have heard this in a different way, in different context. Spoilers abound. People. No, not that. Not
Not
that.
that siren?
No,
Okay.
not that siren.
Okay, well.
But yeah. So all right. So we get taken across, and I'm.
Well, wait, I want to touch on the ghost room one more time, like the show.
All right, I guess that's fine.
They just did some really cute things in there where like they had
Yeah.
an old radio, and so every once in a while a song would come on that was definitely themed for like afterlife spooky stuff, ghostly themed, because I think Ghost Town played at one point. And then Spirit in the Sky. I'm trying to think of another one, but there was a few like they're all ghostly themed, right?
Yeah.
So the song would come on the radio, like you would hear like the radio go off, like where it's like staticky, and then a song would come on, and then the whole room, like the lights in there would start dancing like to the song and changing and stuff.
Like the spirits are having a party.
The spirits are doing stuff and haunting things.
Yeah.
It was really cute.
It was cute.
It was really, really cute. Their attention to detail for Creep is always great. They literally, for your group, everybody, how they kind of got your groups together or whatever, is they would give you a key because you're checking into the hotel. And it would be a certain color on the tag. So they would say, you know, the red group or the yellow group or whatever. But what was cute was like we were all red group and we compared keys and we all had different keys, which I just thought was really cute.
Yeah, they didn't mass produce these, or if they did, it wasn't the same one 20 times. Yeah,
It was really cute.
it was really cool.
But they do. They eventually bring you out, give you the rules, and then we're headed across the street.
Across the street, and the vibe changes immediately. I love it when they take you outside, they line you up, they say 10 of you stand here, 10 of you stand there, and they're notorious also for separating us. So
Oh,
in my
gosh.
mind, I'm like, here's where it happens.
Yes.
One of our rows is going to go that way, and the other's going to go this way, and
In the past, we have had those moments where like we've lined up in the same row, and like usually they will split you up if they were near each other, kind of thing.
yeah.
So yeah,
they-
that was my anticipation too.
Yeah. And we should also say we had your sister with us.
Mm-hmm.
That was Lizzie's first time, I think, going to any JFI event. And
That
we-
was her very first one. She's wanted to go for a bit, but we just couldn't find the right time or the right event. They always sell out fast, guys.
yeah, which-
Like, you got to follow them. You got to be on it. You got to be ready to go.
yeah, absolutely. I do think that when once you got across, and I loved the juxtaposition between the two types of houses. This old classic, very Los Angeles house going across to, it felt like a mansion, like a Victorian mansion.
Yes.
And we go in between them. You know, I thought that
Right.
was really cool. So you actually go in between them. And one of the actors who has traditionally been with JFI, we've seen them a couple times in Willows, and Dustin's got a wonderful like story about this, him and this actor kind of going back and forth at a long dinner table.
Oh yeah, at the Willows.
Yeah, yeah. And he was one of the people that was kind of in the position to kind of just like help us kind of get situated and talk you into the story.
Yes.
You know? So
Yeah, he was the first one you kind of meet up with, and
like
he's
a
like the
groundskeeper,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly, and he kind of mentions that he doesn't like going in this house, or if he does, he doesn't like staying long. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But he watches over the spirits.
And we just also, the mood changes immediately. As soon as you
Immediately.
cross the street, there is no fun noise. There is no crackle of a fireplace. There is no, you know, background talking. It is quiet. The only thing you hear is the man talking and just the stillness of the area.
Stillness.
Yes, it is just like that.
That's what it feels like.
It does feel like that. It
Mhm.
does feel like that. And this was kind of our first like vignette into what we would find out would be a couple of them through the evening. So,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. So, I mean, you walk through like a cute little haunt first. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's literally like got the wooden wall flats kind of thing. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
people are smacking it as you walk by.
Yeah, like which is kind of silly, funny, but whatever. And then he brings you up to these. I mean, he's giving you speeches along the way, but he brings you up to these shrines, right?
Right. It's kind of like it's like situated in like a garden, you'd imagine, like in the South, and then it's covered, and then we have all these shrines.
Yes, and he's
Right.
talking about how like the talks we're getting is how we're now family and things like that, and what binds us together. And what he's kind of coming to is that these shrines, they have a bunch of names written all over them in chalk, and he starts talking about like they're gravestones basically.
Yeah.
Big gravestones, and there's a bunch of like little trinkets and stuff in front of them, and kind of like offering things. And yeah, it's kind of talking about how loss and grief and the things we lose is kind of what binds us together.
It got real serious.
It
like,
got real
you know,
serious.
everything he said was very true. I couldn't disagree with it. And
Yeah.
you know, it was interesting being there because at some point he does ask everybody to write the name of a person that they've lost. You know,
Yes.
I thought that was part of the show. Like maybe it'll come back to us, but at the same time, it's very obviously personal. Like you could
Yes.
straight up lie. I lied. I put a name down because, knock on wood, I haven't really lost it. Well, anyway, I've been very fortunate in that instance, but I don't know if people put it on there like where it was real or not. You know, because I don't want to. If someone did pass away, to be part of this show, if it was part of a show,
Mhm.
I don't want to disgrace that person. But also, if it wasn't part of the show, it kind of felt like it was a little too, for me, it was a
Yeah.
little too serious.
It got pretty personal. I will say that was, and I think that continues throughout this too, where it gets pretty personal for some people. But that was a big theme they decided to lean into, was like ghosts, like the ghosts of people we've lost, and then like what like that grief is and things like that too. And so yeah, definitely they asked us to write names on the wall and stuff, and we took like a moment, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? And then he asked if anyone had something to offer to the spirits. And he was like legit, like, do you have to have something on you? You know what I mean?
Like a panhandler. You got like
Yeah,
a 20,
legit.
you got to get a quarter. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And
what were you going to give him?
well, I mean, okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
So I actually got singled out in this moment, which again, Creep is really notorious for this. One, I got to say right away, these actors, they are not afraid to look you like straight in the eyes.
Yeah, like to your soul, right?
It's part of the uncomfortable thing. I think they do not break eye contact. Like they just don't. They are making it so personal. They look right at you. They are really asking you. They are looking into your soul. They are being very vulnerable. It is crazy. And so he, is going around. First, everyone thought, oh, he's kind of like asking for tips or something, but he was saying, no, we need an offering for like the ghosts and everything. And then he stops on me and he says, what, do you have anything? And he's kind of going through a list of things and items to give. And I really was like, dang, I didn't bring my purse. I put everything away. I don't have like coins. I don't got nothing.
Yeah.
Normally I would have something. I don't have anything. And the only thing I could think was that me and Chris, we have gotten silicone rings that we just like buy in bulk basically because I work a job that's like really terrible for my wedding ring to wear. Like it'll get busted up. So I was about to give him my silicone.
Unbelievable, right? Fucking
Because I was like,
unbelievable.
I have plenty more at home. It's fine. Like I could give this and it'll feel really symbolic or whatever. But I was really worried that Chris was going to feel a certain way if I did.
Fucking preposterous, right? Mason Conrad is the actor's name.
Okay, cool. No, and he's great. Yeah,
yeah.
we got to see him. We did the Traders, which was another like promo thing they did,
Yeah.
and we were very lucky to have him.
Yeah. Willows again.
Yeah.
Dustin. And,
He's fantastic.
Yeah,
he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And
even a movie.
But then luckily, like as I'm like reaching for my ring quietly, then he was like, or your hair, just a strand. And I was like, oh yeah, I could get my
Yeah.
And so I do.
That's less invasive.
Yeah, so I go to pull one of my hairs out, and it's funny because he gets all excited and stuff. And
Did he really?
Yeah, and
Oh,
the people
shit.
next to me, was kind of like an older couple, and one of them I could tell he was. I don't know if he'd ever been to one of these events before or something, but he felt like odd and weird the whole time. But he legit was like, oh my God. Like he did, like when I started
Really?
pulling my hair out. Yeah. Like when I went to pull the strand out, he was like he was like not for it.
I had no idea. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was half of the couple that didn't make it through our event.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But
anyways.
this is their first foray. It's, yeah, man, you're jumping into the deep end, but
It was so funny. But I give him some strands of my hair and he takes them, which I was like, wow.
he
And
actually
then
took your hair.
yeah, and he's looking around for anything else anyone can offer. And funny enough, somebody has this tiny, I mean like dime-sized kind of rubber ducky. Just a little mini rubber ducky, which is hilarious. And he offers it up, and the guy is so happy to have it, which is awesome.
I know. That's such a credit to like the actor's ability to like
They have no idea what people are going to give them.
improv.
They
yeah.
have no
yeah.
idea. Like, that's like, these people are brilliant. I say it all the time because I'm like, it's not a yes or no question they're asking, like most of the time. They're asking
Yeah.
for your involvement. They're asking for things, and they're going to get something totally different. And they have to just react to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he then says, we're going to go into the house. We're going to go ahead and, get the spirits going kind of thing, like get you in. We'll give the offering up or whatever. He doesn't like to stay in there long. So, that kind of a thing. Jump into the house. We all circle up into this really tight circle. There's one single light bulb above us. And I can't even remember what he does. He tells us to close our eyes.
Yeah. Well,
no, we don't.
Well, I think he does, or you look down, I think. And because I kept seeing your shoes.
I think because the light. Okay, so he at first we're just there and stuff, and he's doing his talk, and then he puts out the ducky, to offer up, and it's crazy because they're always hitting these lights that are on you, above you on like a chain or something, and they're just swinging around and being crazy. But yeah, at one point when he's like reaching out with the ducky, then all of a sudden the lights go out, full darkness. And we're just in the dark. And there is like a voiceover thing that starts happening at that point about the ghosts in the house.
Yeah.
But that's the point Chris is talking about. Guys, I have some really cool shoes that have a bunch of ghosts on them. And I was like, that's perfect for this event, except that they glow in the dark. And we were just standing under a light that was like beaming onto us, and then the lights went out. And so apparently Chris and Lizzie both commented later that my shoes were just glowing.
Super bright. Yeah.
I didn't even notice because I was
Yeah.
so like,
Like, do you have anything that could light the space? Take it off. But yeah.
that could have easily got picked on.
It was interesting in there because I figured in times of the past, this would be a perfect spot for us to get separated. And we didn't. I fully expected. In fact, I went so far as like touching, like finding your leg.
I was right next to you. So I remember I reached out and had my hand against your leg.
Yeah. So if someone gets moved, you know, because this is
Yes.
completely dark, sans your
Couldn't see anything.
brilliant shoes. Yeah.
Chris knew if I was gonna leave, but he couldn't. We didn't.
Yeah.
I know. I reached out to just touch the side of his leg. So yeah, if he moved and got pulled, I would know he got pulled.
Yeah, which I thought was totally gonna happen, but it didn't, which is a
No.
little weird. I was a little disappointed by that. I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck. I was hoping we would get separated.
Totally. Something in the dark, but
Right.
it was still really creepy.
Yeah, and we should say also in this house, it was a very dilapidated house, whether it was that way by default or it was created to do that.
Yeah.
The set design was fantastic. Whether again it's falling apart by natural causes or it was created to look like that.
Yeah.
So then we go through it, and then we go into our first vignette out
So now,
in the house.
yeah, we start the vignettes. I don't know if we should just totally go in order, or if we want to talk about like our kind of our favorite standout moments.
Yeah, I don't want to hit it beat by beat. I mean,
Right?
first of all the vignettes are awesome. All the actors are fucking incredible.
The first one's pretty cool because there's a bit of a story to it, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So I will want to touch on this one a little bit.
Okay.
There's, there's a ghostly lady figure that's like in the doorway that leads us in, kind of. And then eventually she shuts herself into a coffin, basically. Which was really the way that she's moving and doing creepy things, it's already like, oh. And then out of the darkness comes this guy talking about how he's built this coffin for his love, his wife, and he was like, she passed away too soon and he wants to bring her back and he'll do anything to bring her back, kind of a thing, right, Chris? He talks about how he's like haunted by her and he can hear her voice still.
Well, and it's great that the actor, by the way, his name is Mike Merchant, who, funny enough, we have a really funny story about the grad bash, but we'll get to that later. He is like a merchant building something, and it's lit so well. Like you're walking into what feels like a blacksmith's basement. It's nice. It's super orangey light, and it looks like he's been working for days,
Yeah.
sweating just to get
Yeah.
this thing done, and he's obsessing over something. And as you walk through, he's talking to you as a group, but he is looking, like you mentioned, at you individually as he does that.
Yes.
So you feel very drawn into this story, whether or not it's directed to you directly. There's a moment where you feel like you are being spoken to directly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you had mentioned it when we were talking off the air, you get half of the story. So you get what he's obsessing about.
Right.
Right. And if I recall, he's talking about bringing back his, I want to say it's his wife. I could be
I thought it was
wrong.
future wife. So we're close.
Yeah. I don't know.
I thought it was like his betrothed kind of thing.
Well,
or
maybe it
something.
is. It's a person that he wants to spend the rest of his life with,
Yeah.
whether legally or not yet. And he is trying to obsessively bring this person back. And he talks to the group about how, I guess in love he was. And like, I don't know if he told her I don't know if he said how she died. I don't remember that part of it.
Right. I don't either, but I do remember that he very much says that, he felt like he couldn't let go, and then he hears her voice saying, "Don't let go."
He hears her saying, "Don't let go."
Yeah, like he can
Okay.
at times hear her. It's like, you know what I mean? He feels like she's there still, and he feels her saying, "Don't let go," and he's just like, so for him, he's like, "I won't, and I'm going to try so hard," and stuff, right? And eventually we end up seeing that he goes to like this witchy lady.
Yeah.
And so we're in like another, eventually we're led into another room with this witchy lady and stuff.
Which and again, I don't know the actor who did this one, because again, they just dissolve into these roles. And the only reason I know these people is because we've seen them in other things. Sidebar, I want to talk about Mike real quick. He actually arrested me and Jessica at the grad party.
When we were doing the I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, and that was awesome. But so
It was pretty funny.
it was funny. And going into this other room, oh man, this is where I always fall in love with their locations and their sets. Because we had just done one at Knott's called Eight Fingers 9 or Nine Fingers 8. No, it was Eight Fingers 9.
Fingers 9. Mhm.
And it was a witchy scene. It was a witchy set.
Oh,
This
yeah.
witchy set felt like it was ripped right out of like medieval times. To
Totally.
me, right? Like it felt uncomfortably evil. There was no fun. There was nothing.
No.
This felt very fucking serious, you
Yeah.
know, which as the patron walking through, it's right next to you. You are fully immersed in this moment. And I just love that. Like it was so good. And so I just, in that moment, what they were saying, and I think the witch is saying that they're basically trading spaces. But before that, we hear from the woman, though. We hear from the betrothed who is dead. I'm pretty sure we hear about her beforehand.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. She let us into the room. She was when the door opens, when we're in that dark circle. The only reason we get light is she's actually the one who opens the door and she's leading us in, and then she goes into her coffin.
The betrothed.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
So we got to see her.
Yeah.
In her ghostly figure.
In her ghostly, and again, that was great too. It's just basically an actor vamping to a crowd, falling into like her coffin because, by the way, lit in like a light blue to like.
Totally.
As I talk about that now, I'm like, oh, it's because she's a spirit and she's dead.
Yeah.
That I see. Interesting. That's such a great choice. Okay. So then, yeah. So now we have the person who passed away. We have the guy who's trying to bring her back. And now we have the witch who's trying to like make a deal with the devil, for lack of a better word.
Basically.
Right?
And it's like he's giving up like his soul and things like that, himself.
Yeah.
To bring her back.
And honestly, this is kind of where I got nervous. This is where I started getting nervous because in most JFI productions, they're a little spookier, but they're a little more like kind of float around. It's very off of the rails in terms of like the visibility to what you're going to do. Like Ghost House specifically, you kind of walk into a town. Like that was a town, you're walking through. And so Awake, you're led through stuff, but it's kind of a dream state where there are big rooms. You can kind of wander and meander a little bit. I don't want to say that you can, it's not
in
an
some
open
of their
world.
shows.
Here, it's kind of like you're being led through kind of a walk-through hunt. It was very delusion-y for me.
Yes, agreed.
And so,
because it was like a tighter space, so there wasn't room to wander.
I was getting worried because yes, great acting, yes, cool sets, but Delusion at this point had a cooler set, and I think the story for me was a little more interesting. Not the whole way, but we're only 10 minutes into this one, so for me, I was getting a little worried at this point because it was nothing special other than
worried too early on.
I do, but my expectations are pretty high too.
I agree. That's true. But yeah, so she's able to start doing this dang spell and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And we actually get to see this lady start, because he has her body, right? So her body is there.
The person that he was trying to bring back.
Yeah, his wife, because again, he just kept the coffin with her in there.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, this is actually kind of a newer thing, I would say, for what I've seen for Creep, is there was like a little more effects stuff like involved in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we actually get to see some cool effects as this lady is brought back. And then this actress is just killing it, where she's just like, the wife lady is now like going in between coming back and then also being like something else, like something evil. And so she's kind of switching between the two very like, kind of rapidly and creepy and things like that. And she basically is letting out, she says to him, she's like, why would you do this? Why would you bring me back? And you know what I mean? And I think even the witch says something like, isn't this your love or something? And she's all like, I had a different love. There was someone else kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? There was a different boy that I really loved or whatever.
Very soap opera.
Yeah, a little bit, but it didn't feel that way at the time.
No, not at all.
And then she, she's like, I kept trying to tell you, don't. I kept telling you, don't. I kept telling you, let go. And so then that's our little twist where it's like he was hearing, don't let go. She was saying two different things, don't. And also let go.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great play on that because we tend to hear the things we want to hear.
Totally.
Right? And so, if you felt a certain way like this dude did, then you'd hear, don't let go. But, if you said it in a different context, don't.
Yeah.
Let me go.
I love that part. It was very cool to watch.
It was transformative. Morgan Taylor is or I hope it's Morgan Taylor. Maybe it's Taylor Morgan. I don't know. Her name on Instagram is Morgan Taylor. She did a great job, and she also put on here that she's a vessel. And you made a good point because in this scene, she's having other people jump into her, right? And she's interacting with the crowd as those people.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right?
She's like, we're lucky we have like a chain link fence between us, kind of thing. But she's like turning in on us and snarling at us and things like that. Yeah, it was freaky.
It was pretty cool too for that actor to have that kind of space to work in that window that they can kind of do something. So yeah, I mean, again, it was okay. It was really cool effects, great acting. But for me, I was like, nah, okay, it was all right.
Oh my God, Chris is so jaded, y'all.
Oh, please. Yeah, right. And then this next part of it.
Sorry for not taking you seriously, my darling.
This next part is when I'm like, oh man, Creep might not have it this year. So
Oh, okay. This one was kind of fair.
yeah, it was a little.
It wasn't your favorite.
No,
It just felt like another area that I kind of was like, this is a very delusion-y moment. This is a very like
Yes.
delusion like a moment.
yeah.
Because we went into like this small, tiny little room, which I will say spacing I think is probably the biggest issue for Creep this year round.
Feels very claustrophobic, like right on top
you're
of people.
so
right?
tight, and you're almost never been that way in the past. And like, so there was a specific room we went and we had to pile into and literally get put on different platforms to just line up as squished as possible to
Right.
fit in this room and to see what was going on. And they freaking put a super tall dude right in front of me, which
Oh no.
sucked. I was like, I'm pretty tall, and I'm up on this like little 1 foot platform step thing.
This man was a giant.
This man was a giant. And I think the actor was trying to grab the taller people to put in the back, but I think he missed this person because he was kind of hiding.
And I thought we were going to get separated here too because he was numbering
was
people
pointing
off.
off, yeah,
I'm like,
and we
okay,
didn't, yeah.
finally we're
So
going to
we're
get
still
something.
all in the same group. I will say, yeah, that's something we're still. And Creep does that. There'll be big moments to keep you all in the same group.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. At this point, it was a little like, okay, we haven't been separated yet. We're not getting split up. And especially for me, now I'm so jaded about the getting split up. Like there was so many couples in our group that like were
Yeah.
like clinging to each other.
It would have been great to freak these fuckers
Oh my God.
out.
Yeah. I'm like, please separate them.
Yeah.
Like, please. It's like the best when you see like the really clingy couples get separated. I don't know why I love it so much. But I also am. I'm like, it's that whole thing. I have always said this, that I love when they separate us in immersive theater because it makes your walls come down. You're no longer like, I'm with my friends and are we all enjoying it? Am I checking in with them? Am I like, still kind of like pretending to be a certain way in front of them? You know what I mean? Can I react like fully? Can I fully be in this when I still have people around me that I know?
Right.
Well, it's like if you have ever done an experience alone, you can just, it's like, who cares? I'm completely alone. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's the moments that when they separate you away from a group, I feel like can be so much more special because you are fully alone.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about, is someone judging me who knows me? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if I get picked out right now and they ask me a question, do I need to answer it in a way that like everyone, like me giving up my ring, is that acceptable? Because Chris is right, right there
It's
and going to
true.
see me
If
do
I
it.
weren't there, you'd be
If
like,
he wasn't
"Here,
there,
take it away, Sam."
I would have been like, here you go, sir. In fact, why don't you wear it? No, I'm just kidding. No, I kid. So yeah, just those moments of like, I was like, please separate us. Yeah, I think this was probably my least favorite part of this too.
Yeah.
There was this house, this like doll house that was set up in a room, and then this big speech from a person who was definitely a little unhinged, talking about how the house has really good bones. And of course, what that means is that there's a lot of bones in the houses, and people have died. In
It
the
was
house.
this house has bones
in it.
built into it, very Sicario style for the people who know what I'm talking about. Romeo Armand is the actor's name
Gotcha.
on it. And
And
he was great. Like he played
very
unhinged, very
Totally.
Yeah. I had
Again,
him.
acting spectacular.
Yeah, and
It's-
I think he was topless through this too, which in itself you have to be very vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think for,
Yeah.
for what he had to do, it was pretty good. But
Yeah.
what it was actually, I was really disappointed with you. What you're talking about? They
Yeah.
basically line us up in a space a little bigger than a fucking closet. With what looks like a dollhouse from a front side of a dollhouse. It's white, and then there's projection on it,
Yeah. We're
like
doing
a fire.
mapping projection on it.
Mapping projection. That's Jessica in the game, people. She would never have known what that was 6 months
No,
ago.
I absolutely would have because I used to like lighting a lot. So I actually did a whole presentation on projection mapping. So F you.
She's very, very proud.
That is a really great example of a horrible idea.
Just saying. So the house does cool things like catch on fire and talk about how there was a terrible fire and people died and things like that. You know what I mean? But it was just a little, it wasn't as interesting as we were just in some ghostly story kind of thing.
That's in comparison. That's true. There was
Yeah.
a lot more going on from what we just came out of. So maybe it was a filler. I don't know.
I know.
I don't like it. And for real, at this point, I'm like, man, I'm
Worried.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll talk about the cost later. Not that it matters because if you've got him, you got him. If you haven't, you're not gonna be able to go. Well, like it's not a cheap ticket, but it's not the most expensive ticket. But
This
I
was
expected,
probably their cheapest year. Yeah.
I
for
expected
Creep.
more at this point, though.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
But what about the next part?
So the next part is where like like, hey, This is why they play 4 quarters, people. And
Literally. So we start getting led upstairs now because again it's like a house kind of a thing. And
crickety steps, they're high, they're
there was
dirty.
like a guy at the bottom of the steps, which I didn't get it at the time until I think Lizzie was talking about it afterward, maybe you, and that's when I realized who it was. But he's playing like a dad role because I had missed some of the conversation. You got stopped by Mr. Bones guy to talk to you.
I did. He said he had great bones.
Yeah, while you're going up the
Yeah.
stairs. Good for you, by the way.
I thank you.
Yeah.
I told him thank you. I do have good bones.
I was at the tail end of like a little group who was going up the stairs who didn't get because you were right behind me. And so I think I was trying to hang back to hear what that guy was saying to you, but then I realized there was a guy ahead who was talking to like the little group I was in. So all I got to hear as I'm passing going up the stairs was he's like, you know, you kids be good and make sure you use protection, you know, and I was like, what the heck are we talking about? So I move on. But Lizzie said that I think she had gotten some other words from him. And then that's when we find out, according to where we go, right? We go up the stairs.
Right.
And this is the first moment that they do decide to separate us.
Yeah.
But they did only separate us by being like, hey, the first amount of people who got into this room.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I see you. Come into this room. Oh, just kidding. Not you. Like, you know, I let like 5 people in, I think she said did. And then she stopped and went, nope, no more. And closed the door kind of a thing. So it was only disappointing in the sense that me, Chris, and Lizzie were all together.
In the same room.
And we all got pulled into the same room.
By the way, pro tip, try and get separated. You want to be separated.
You want to be
Because you get the different
separated.
stories. Like there's a whole section that we don't know what happened. It's not worth going back for. It's not because it's like one small part of it, but
Yeah, because everything else we got to see, I think. But it was just this part that we have no idea what happened.
Yeah.
Which is going to always happen in Creep. You will always have a part that you won't know what happened. But at least if you have a group of friends and you guys get separated, y'all can talk about
it's
the different
great
things.
conversation at dinner
It's
or
the
coffee
best.
or liquor afterwards or
So
drinks.
good.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So pulled into a room and it's a young girl who's getting ready to get picked up for her prom and she wants to be prom queen. And so that made sense for the dude at the end of the steps because I was like, oh, he was like the dad. You know what I mean? He was being like, you kids have fun and be safe. And you know what I mean? We're going up the stairs to this girl, you know? Not sure what the other room had. I'm guessing maybe something similar because again, that dad was there for that part.
I wonder if it was the guy. I don't know.
Like maybe it was
because we got half of it, right? I forget the dude's name. I'm gonna say it's Johnny because it makes sense if it's Johnny.
Johnny.
Yeah, she's waiting for her date. It might be maybe her date was on the way and got tied up, or I have no idea. But for us to suppose, I mean, we could take forever for that.
Well, we do find out. Well, I guess we don't find out.
We don't find
We
out.
sort of. It's a little nuancy, but well, so yeah, there's a girl and she's getting ready for prom. She's really cute and she's, you know, just getting all dressed up and stuff. And very clearly not of this decade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very sock hoppish.
Yeah, exactly. And she is talking about being prom queen and stuff. And she's talking about how, you know, I think it's Johnny is going to pick her up in his car and she can't wait. But then she starts talking about, you know, but it's really rainy outside.
Did you notice how cold it was in the room too?
Yeah, it was. And then the window had like lightning and rain happening.
Yeah.
So they're creating all this atmosphere for you. And so this is the moment once I talked about where this chick is just killing it. Like this actress is just killing it.
I can't find her name.
She is looking at people directly in the eyes. Sometimes she's you know, again, she's kind of ghostly, right? Like we know they're all ghosts at this point. And she's having moments where she's almost talking to people like they are Johnny and then not, you know what I mean? Like, were you on the way to pick me up? Why didn't you come?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
So we start to find out there's something there where he didn't pick her up.
There was a moment that she and I had, and I swear, like these people like look into your soul. Like there is nobody else. And I think that she actually danced with Lizzie. Did she dance with Lizzie?
Yeah, a little bit later. So yeah, she's kind of, and she's asking like questions of people and things like that. But you can see it at one point. At one point, she gets so desperate and she just really wants to go, and no one's there, but it's raining, and so she goes to the whole point was that she went to go run out to the car or something, or she ran out to the street. thinking, you know, oh, I think she heard a car pulling up or something. And so she goes to run out to the street, and it's really cute because she's opening up her closet doors. And when she opens them up, we get like a big blast of like headlights coming out.
So I was right next
and
there
the
for that.
screech of like the horn kind of noise.
I thought that was a really cool effect.
Oh, holy crap.
Yeah, so I was
startling.
I was next to her when that happened. She says, "Let's go," and I peek. But yeah, she opens up the closet and you get the headlights, and then there might be like some type of loud ass
There was
horn.
a horn, yeah.
But yeah, it was legitimately super loud.
Oh my God, it made me jump.
Yeah, and it was great because they kept it all in the room. You know, it's like
Yes.
it reminds you
bedroom.
of it reminds you of theater when you kind of you have this limited space to work with, so you tell multiple scenes in this one area through like effects. I thought that was really cool.
It was so good. So yeah, we basically find that out. She kind of gives us a little more story saying that she's not, you know, was that maybe you, Johnny? Like, were you rushing to get
Like a
to me?
post-mortem almost.
Yeah. So that's why I said, I was like, we do find out that she got hit by a car clearly, but it could have been him. We don't know. He could have been the one.
Yeah.
So it's possible. Otherwise it was just too rainy and he couldn't come, or he did ditch her.
Yeah, or he did ditch her.
Yeah. And then she does lead us to a new room, and that's where she asked Lizzie to dance. She, you know, would you go to the prom with me? I think she said, or something.
It was so good.
It was really, it was like heartbreaking. This like young woman talking about her dreams and going back and forth between her excitement and sadness. And again, she's just staring into your fucking soul.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I don't remember the story exactly, we should say we went to this like a week.
It's about 2 weeks ago.
It's about 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
So it's only a time thing. Because otherwise when I was in the room, I was hanging on to like every fucking word.
Well, what's great about this too is you assume you don't. I guess in the story you assume everybody's dead, right? Like, you know, but the way they set you up for it, you're hanging on the words because like, fuck, I like this person. I hope they don't die. Like maybe they did make it. Maybe they're telling like almost eulogizing something as opposed to, you know, being hit by a car and fucking killed. So like, you know, they really make you care for their characters, and then they drop the hammer that, oh, by the way, while she's waiting for, she wanted to be prom queen, she got beautiful, she was waiting for the guy to come pick her up, she gets killed by a car.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so there is that moment of, oh shit. So yeah, I felt that was it was good because of how sad it was. And like you said, you believe everything this actor says. And that was when I'm like, we're fucking back. Like at that point, I'm like, this is worth the price of admission.
Yeah, this is the moment. You're like, cool, we got separated.
Yeah.
We just got a very intimate,
yeah,
made you feel something story.
And a jump too. Like, you know what I mean? So like all that in the space of a small bedroom, like it just kicked ass.
Oh, so good.
We're back. We're back.
Yeah, we're so back.
Yeah.
We go into a magician next.
I loved that they included this.
Because there's tricks.
By the way, I love this next room. This next room felt like an old study, right? With bookcases
cool.
and the brown leather chairs.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like it felt like and very dimly lit, like these oil lanterns. It was,
so cool.
Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah. And we got some magician-y tricks that all had to do with ghostly things. You know, and this is where we talk about personal stuff again, because there was one that he asked if someone had lost somebody very recently who was very important to them. So someone had to raise their hand to volunteer. And then he asked them to go, you know, while he was away, write their name down on a page. And then, you know, he could like listen to like the spirits or something and then say the name, kind of a thing. So, you know, doing magic trick stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like, especially if you're like really believing in it, if you're not just like, oh, this is a fun trick, you know what I mean? If you're like believing it, I was like, this has got personal.
Well, what's great about it too is that it has you after you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right? Like we just got done telling you how great of a story we were just in. And now our next vignette is this magician who's, you know what I mean? So like you've opened yourself up to that. And I think that, funny enough though, Delusion last year, I believe had, it's not the same guy, but it was the same tricks, I think. And so Dustin was talking about how he kind of solved some of them. And you actually were called for one of them too. Like
I did,
they called you up.
Yeah, it was the whole, you know, have you ever been touched by a spirit before? He asked or something. And I was like, I don't know.
How would I know?
Yeah, I said that. I was like, I'm not sure. And he said, okay, good. Something like that. You know what I mean? And then the idea was that, I would close my eyes and relax, and he would go touch somebody else on some part of their body. And
in
then,
our group.
in our circle that we're in, and then I would feel it, you know what I mean? And that's what happened. It was that to close my eyes, totally relax, feel something touch me. And then he asked me to open my eyes when he's all done, and it's like, you know, where were you touched? And I reveal where I was touched, which was my nose. And then he was, you know, everyone in the group is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
No one touched her nose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm standing there like, was that accurate? I have no idea. I was in the dark.
It was pretty cool. Like that was a
It's pretty
pretty cool moment.
I always wondered how that one worked. I'm almost sad that I got picked to do it, because then I am such a person who wants to figure out how these things work.
Yeah.
I'm just like that person. And because I got picked, I could kind of suss it out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it happened. Like I still very much felt the area. It wasn't like I was making it up or anything.
And it was a good crowd too, because for all
Yeah.
the reasons, the people that were nervous in the beginning,
Right.
they were in that shit.
They
You know
were
what I
in
mean?
it now. Yeah.
Yeah, they were fucking, you know,
Before it was just like, okay, a little uncomfortable.
Right.
Now it's like,
you're
we're
in the
here.
shit now. Yeah.
And then we go into a damn seance room.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was cool. I thought, I don't even know how we got there, because I thought we were like on the second story. In the seance room, I thought was in the first story, but like I couldn't figure out the like geography of it. But it was so cool.
It was
Like,
really cool.
It was a giant table seance room.
Round table,
Yeah,
with
it
all these
was-
symbols on it. I remember we walk in and the lady, the actress, it actually says to us, you know, like choose carefully or something like that. We like sit around the table, but choose carefully or something
Yeah.
like that. And so of course, me, Chris, and Lizzie are like, we have to sit all separate.
Yeah, we're
we need to
like
get
3, 6,
separated.
and 9. Like
We already messed up. We already missed something.
Yeah.
We got to separate, which was so funny because I went to one side of the table, Lizzie and Chris went to the other, and I think Lizzie even pushed you away
she
further.
did.
She was
I
all
was
like,
gonna
go
sit next to Lizzie, and she's like, "No."
Yeah, she was
I'm
like, sit away.
Fuck, you're right. I didn't think about it, but she's right. She 100% was right in that moment. She's like, "Yeah."
And Chris ends up sitting really close to, like at the end, then we're close to where she's performing.
Kind of the head of the table,
Kind of the head of the table.
you know. So
Which ended up being a good spot to sit in,
I know
apparently.
I was very excited about that. Not gonna lie.
We were told to put our hands on the table. We were like gonna do a seance thing. Don't move your hands from the table. And this is where we got some more really cool effects.
Which I guess, by the way, sidebar. I guess that's a real thing. Because we've done 2 seances now in haunt season, and I guess you're not supposed to remove your hands from the table. And also on Agatha All Along, I think they say the same thing too. So, pro tip. Just don't do it, but also leave your hands on the table at all times. So write that down, everybody. Because anyway, but yeah. So at the table, it was very uncomfortable. Red lighting, you could tell something malicious was kind of there. It's just, you don't fuck around with that. Again, it's this blending of, should I be concerned? How nervous do I need to be? Do I need to be nervous? Do I need to get the fuck out of here? I can only imagine how the people that you had seen in the beginning must be feeling at this point.
I know.
Like,
Again, all the couples are sitting right next to each other, very tight. Like,
Yeah.
what is happening?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Which I remember even seeing, it was kind of funny because since we had split up, it was starting to split up some of the couples. Like
Yeah.
when they're towards the end, they're
Oh,
like, we
yeah,
can't
that's
sit
right.
together.
that's right.
And I was so happy nobody was like, oh, let me scoot over for you.
Yeah. Can you
I was
move
like,
from
no.
me? Yeah.
sit.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. It was your first. Keep it moving.
Sit.
Yeah.
But she says that we're gonna attempt to call forward one of the spirits. You know, she's kind of giving us a little bit of backstory, but she's like, she has this item because she says you need something from them, and she has this hat, and she's like, so we're going to call forth the spirit who this hat belongs to, basically. And she says that she needs, I guess, kind of a vessel, right, or something like that.
Someone to, I guess, hang on to the token. I'm not sure if it's a vessel, but
Chris had to wear the damn top hat. It's a
Yeah.
top hat, and he had to wear it.
yeah.
And I was like, yes,
The
Christopher.
actress's name is Clara Delamar, if I'm saying that right. Yeah. And so, first of all, I think top hats are inherently terrifying. I think Jack the Ripper. I think Babadook. I just think that-
Totally.
right. You put someone in a top hat, old school Dr. Jekyll,
Abraham
Mr. Hyde,
Lincoln.
terrifying, right? And so, yeah, and in my mind, so a little prior knowledge of it, there was a moment that Jessica and Dustin talked about, again, from the awake offering.
Oh yeah.
There was I think a man
Uh-huh.
who would like come in just
He
like
was in a top hat.
top hat, and so
And yeah, he had to it was one of the creepiest moments I've had probably in Creep.
so
And it was in Awake.
It was right.
It was in Awake.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. Like if you got to go to Awake and you got to do this part where this man is coming into your house to give you medicine. That is the man we are talking about.
By the way, and just sidebar, and we talk about getting split up, Awake had 3 different paths, which linked into 3 other paths. So there were paths that I never saw. There were paths that you guys never saw.
Yeah.
So like that has the replayability factor for those of us who play video games. But like this one, that's what we talk about. If you get separated, you want to be part of those things. You want to be interested. You got to separate yourselves to see that. But in this case, I kept thinking, I thought they said don't look at him. I never looked at him. I never even saw the man.
She did tell us to keep our eyes, don't look directly at him. Keep your eyes on the table or something like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, at some point, like, lights start flickering, things are happening, it's getting freaky. And then we have a door like pop open and it's just like his frame. And so, and then also,
Oh, really? You saw it?
yeah, because it's literally from where you were almost directly across from where I was sitting, almost like just slightly more to the left of where I would need to look. The door is to like the right of where I need to look if I'm looking straight ahead, basically. So it's kind of this Y frame going on with me. And so that door pops open on the right and it's just backlit. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, really cool. And again, we have like flickering, creepy lights going on. And this guy comes in and he is just freaking out, like he is like twitchy. He is
really?
disgusting. Yeah, like he's just moving so frantically. We're told to look at the table, don't look at him, which also helps it because then you don't know what's going on. The whole time he looks like he's a shadowy figure. You know what I mean? He's coming in and the lights are flickering and we don't get any features off of him. He is just like this black shadow.
Oh, you could never see like what he looked like, his face or what? Oh, okay.
Pretty sure it's a bodysuit, but
Makes
that's
sense.
me like,
Right.
figuring
the
it out.
production side of it, that's
Again,
brilliant. It's a great
was
way of hiding
great.
it.
And he now is working his way around the table, going clockwise. So from that right area, working around, right? Which is great because it's like he has to pass behind you at some point, and you're just like sitting there like, oh God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he is kind of getting close to people. I think he might technically be touching them at times. I'm not sure. Works his way around over to Christopher. And so then he comes up to Chris, and man, what does he do?
He touched me like it was yeah. He touched my shoulders. He touched my
He touched
arms.
me.
He touched my head. He touched my ears.
He's like straight up, like, yeah, he's like all over, like just like almost a rubbing, but like not sexual, but like I'm gonna take over your freaking body.
It's almost
sort of
as
way.
if a blind person was trying to figure out my stature, but in an aggressive way. That's kind of how I would describe it. And like I said,
Who is this man?
yes, and very, very frantically. And it's funny. It never made me uncomfortable. I never saw it. So like, that's one thing too. If I
Yeah.
had seen what you had seen, then I would have been scared.
I was straight up cheating at this point.
As in like looking at this guy.
Yeah, because you were again like just barely like to the left of like me looking straight ahead. So me looking down at the table like center wise, it's very easy for me to bring my eyes up just slightly to see what's going on.
Oh, I see.
So I was doing that. And so yeah, I got to see him completely like just his hands go, around your neck and around your head and all these.
Babadook.
Yeah, very creepy.
Babadook.
Lights I think fully go out at some point, come back on, and he's wearing the hat. And then he
Yeah.
very calmly exits the room. Like
That he wanted his token.
he walked all the way out. Like I could see him go out the door. He didn't close the door behind him. He's just still exiting out and then like turns around a corner kind of a thing. And I remember that I was just like, oh my God, we just get to watch him leave the whole time. And he just looks like this shadowy figure now with the top hat.
Interesting. Again, plays into the ghost, right?
Yeah,
Like when
super creepy.
like when I would love to be in a production meeting when they're like, okay, what vignettes can we tell that revolve around ghosts, but not traditional ghost stories, right?
Right.
I think that's such a cool, interesting
Yeah.
concept.
And she does this. She makes a little bit of a joke about, because at first she was being like, what is his unfinished business? Like, what is like, you know what I mean? Trying to figure it out. And then she's like, maybe he was just upset he didn't have his hat. You know what I mean? Because he left very calmly after that. So we got a bit of
that's
comedy
cool.
in there too,
Yeah.
which is always fun.
Yeah.
And then continue on, right? We get out of the
Yeah.
room. And now we're all lined up and we are at a counter.
This was this was fine for me. It
Right.
wasn't, I mean,
This to me is like the improv skills again that are always coming through.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know why. Maybe it was necessary, maybe to like set the scene for the next for our group. But we get up and you go to like a ticket counter, like, hey, you're buying a ticket for an old movie. What are you gonna go see? right? It's lit creepily. It's kind of in the middle of a void, which itself is uncomfortable, right? Like it's in the middle of fucking nowhere. This person's wearing like a glowing mask and like, hey, why'd you die? Or how'd you die? And then you tell them,
Yeah, he that's exactly it. It's a
Right?
counter, but he's asking, how did you die?
very Beetlejuice. Like
Yes.
it feels like someone like, hey,
Oh,
like I'm
totally.
Beetlejuice, and like, hey, this is how you die. But you know,
Yeah, exactly. I'm there asking how you died. They're going to give you the instructions for where you go now, kind of a thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What happened? So I guess that makes sense because once you have the ticket, then you go to like an usher who's holding the whole group one at a time. And he says, how did you die? Who killed you? What do you think happens when you die? Or
Oh, he's just
something like
bantering while
Yeah.
everybody else is.
And
Okay.
I think I got too real with him, and I'm making stuff up, like, because I mean, again, I've been very fortunate at this point. So I told him that my mom had died, and then he said, "Why do you think that happened?" And I thought about it, and I said, "Growth for me." Or he said, "What do you think that meant for you?" And I said, "Growth to help me grow." And then he looked at me, and there's a moment of like, I kind of thought he's like, this fucking guy is right. I gotta talk to somebody else. So he talked to the next person, and then that person didn't have maybe as like a deep answer.
Yeah.
And I mean, they don't want to get too fucking into it with somebody like that. So I don't blame them. But I think I played myself out by giving too good of an answer.
I mean, yeah, because eventually when we get to that dude, his whole shtick is, what do you think happens to you after you die? And you could tell he wanted somebody to be like, either we go to heaven or we do whatever and stuff. Because
Nobody
then,
said that.
no,
Yeah.
because his answer in the end, what he's getting to his whole speech was that nothing, like there's nothing and stuff, and that it's meaningless and all this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is something to it where it's like if he's asking you that question of what did that mean for you?
Yeah.
And you said growth, he's like,
That's not what I wanted, fucker. I kept
Right.
thinking of, there's a quote, great quote that Keanu Reeves said. I think it's Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert asked him, and again, I don't know if it's Colbert or not. It's somebody. He says, "What do you think happens when you die?" And Keanu thinks for a second. He says,
oh yeah,
"I think what happens is the people that love you miss you." And I'm thinking, I wanted to say that, but I'm like, if he didn't like my mom thing, he's gonna be like, that's not what we're looking for, So
he knew you were bullshitting.
I was, but how do you know I was bullshitting? I'm a great liar.
No one would say
I'm
that.
a great-
My mom died.
Hey,
what does that mean for me?
I was gonna,
Growth.
let's not forget
Personal
people
growth.
don't know this, but when we went to Willow's 2 years ago, I almost made people at the table cry with my improv skills. Okay, I don't want anybody to forget that. So a lot of people that don't know. So this is true.
My suggestion to people is I think it's okay to open up about when you're in these things, because again, you'll never probably see these people ever again, and especially not in real life. So it's okay to open up and accept that there's been times that I've gone to these creep things and they've asked me questions and I did feel like I didn't want to open up about it and I have made up things. And then at the end of it, I was like, I should have just went along with it. You know what I mean? I should have just went with it because like this actually did feel a little meaningful at the end.
Well, that's
You know what I mean?
I think that's why people say it's easy to tell strangers personal things.
Right.
I mean, in the grand scope of things, right? Not in a haunted house, but like it's easy to tell because in the end, it doesn't matter. Like we don't know each other. You don't give a shit. It's more therapeutic for me to offload this onto you and for me to say it out loud,
Right.
than for you to give me an opinion I give a shit about. It's just it's anyway. So maybe I could see that happening.
Do you know what you said to the guy about how you died?
Yeah, I remember all that shit.
What'd you say?
I said I was shot.
Dang, you crazy.
I said I was shot.
There's a lot of
my brother
interesting-
shot me.
Whoa.
I know. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to die. That all sounds so horrible.
This is crazy. I mean, you were like the first person in line, so I do give it to you. Like all
Honestly-
of the rest of us like got to kind of hear what was getting asked and was like, and you could see some people were trying to come up with clever
Well, okay,
answers.
there's it is too. Because what I was afraid of saying,
Right.
and again, being the filmmaker or the writer, I'm thinking of all these horrible ways, right? But I don't want to put that into reality. Like I don't mean, yeah, I got eaten by a shark.
But
that
you just put
might
into
happen.
reality that your brother shot you.
But if I'm like, you know what? If I get shot, maybe it's like it's not as painful as getting eaten by a fucking shark or taking an axe
my
to my
God.
fucking head. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, I just wanted to be like, yeah, this is probably the
Hold on.
quickest. and
I
less
remember this
painful.
quote you said earlier.
I'm gonna say a lot of dumb
No, I no. What did you remember what you said?
Yeah.
What did you
Because
say?
it's the same thing where it's like I want to be truthful, but I also like didn't die.
Yeah,
so
you didn't die.
I said, because we just came out of the seance thing. So I had said, he's like, how did you die? I was like, I think it was from messing with things that I shouldn't have.
That's ridiculous.
And
That's
he
not even a real
actually-
answer.
It's a great answer. I think it was from messing around with things that I shouldn't have. And then he got all dark with me because it's like for everybody else, he had a lot of funny like kind of answers. But I was also the last one, so maybe that was part of it. But he legit was just like,
Isn't that always the way?
And I like legit was basically in that voice.
I was hanging on your words in there. I'm like, wow, what did he say? And then you use that. It's like,
That's what he sounded like. He went all deep. He was like, "Isn't that always the way?"
It
Like
sounds
very
very,
serious and very, you know what I mean. His like expression from being happy changed and got really dark on me and stuff. And I was like,
that's fun.
"Ooh."
But also creepy.
It was really creepy.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we like keep going through this here.
I'm ready.
Because honestly, the next big part is like we actually end up in a group with like a bunch of people, like a bunch of actors, like
Yeah.
and they're criminals. They say that off the gate, and they're celebrating, drinking.
It feels like a Gatsby
Totally.
party, but in Miami. Everybody's wearing white.
Everybody's in white, yeah, but they are in like 1920s-ish outfits.
Yeah.
And everybody, all of us, are kind of like scattered around the room because they grabbed you as you entered and kind of threw you in different positions, like
Yeah.
sit down here, do this. So it was kind of cool because you could see a lot of interactions happening. Like a lot of people got interactions. Like Lizzie got a ton of
She
interactions
did.
and stuff.
Yeah.
During this time. Well, I got like 0 by the
Me
way.
too.
What the fuck?
I
We were like the
know.
last 2 people standing there. We didn't separate again.
Like,
We
we're those
fucked
people
up again.
at the fucking party that just hang out on
I
the
know.
wall.
I really felt like that. I was like, we're like the wallflowers right now.
know.
Like, should I just walk in here? And anyways,
But you're not. But the scene, right? So like, it's someone they're playing piano, they're drinking, they're singing, they're
Yeah.
sitting on a 3-person couch with 4 people. Like it's very intimate, very, very. It's a
Jovial.
party. Yeah, like these people are using the space and the people that were there, like
Yeah.
like us, the patrons,
Totally.
and really just kind of vamping off that.
Yeah.
So it was really, and music was playing too.
Yeah.
It was very
super
cool.
fun.
Yeah,
They all toast to their success. Then all of a sudden they all start dying.
yeah.
Except for one girl, and she like runs out of the room, and then eventually when they're all dead, we go to like follow her. And when we follow her, we go into a room that has an older lady in a bed, and she's like hooked up to machines and stuff, and it's very much a deathbed scene.
Yeah.
And she, you know, she's like, "I'm so happy you came here to see me at the end," and talks about like kind of the regrets that she had in life and stuff. And she makes it clear that she is the lady that ran out of that room too, by the way, that it's like, you know, she'd done, those were some of the, like the funnest times or something like that. She
It's
said.
great visual storytelling, you know,
Yeah.
like she is talking to herself on their deathbed, to her younger self, and like they're having a conversation of, did you have a good life? Did you not? You put it all together, and it's done so well. And by the way, the casting, funny enough, those 2 actors have been with them for a while, especially the younger one. The other one was Mama, who I almost made cry in the Willows. They
made her
looked
cry? Oh,
almost
you-
made her cry.
oh, okay,
Can't
yeah.
make her cry.
She was
but-
pretty strict. She also yelled at you because you had your elbows
Elbows
on
on
the
the
table.
table. You love to bring that
I
up.
know. Well, you did,
That's
and I
true.
knew right away. I was like, "That's bad manners."
But the casting was really good on that, and I thought that was such a cool scene too. It made it real because I mean, think about it. In all of this, the tone is so different, and you get so much
Yeah.
out of it. Where here, it's like if you were to ask your younger self, conversation with your older self, like, did you have a good life? What are your regrets? I'll have you know that the time that you just got out of might be one of the best times you'll ever have. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't think about that in the moment. You could never know that, but as you through that scene, it's like, man, that's really poignant. That's
It was,
good.
yeah, it was pretty. This is where they got really deep again. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this got really serious and really deep. Yeah, it was a bit like, it was like a little like, dang, this is kind of emotional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty heavy. And she passes in front of us, and then her younger self comes out from around the side of the bed, like her spirit basically, and she says that, where she's just like, you know, oh my gosh, and then she goes to leave, and we're going to leave through the room where all those people died. And it's the coolest thing. She opens those doors, and it's freaking red in the room, and now it's a bunch of figures in sheets. Like, instead of all the dead people laying there, they are now ghostly sheet figures, and they're just standing there.
Yeah.
And it looks so creepy.
Because it could look silly, right? It's very
Totally.
classic. Oh, this guy's wearing she with the eye holes cut out, but it just works for this, right?
Mhm.
And you saw it. Like I was at the tail end, so I was
Yeah,
at the
Chris had
very
went
end of
to
that.
like the other side of the bed, and you couldn't see the doorway from that side of the bed. So I had that moment where when I saw it, I was like looking over, like, Chris, you gotta get around the corner. But
Yeah.
you like, there was too many people, kind of a thing. And then she starts to go through the room and they start to rise, like, you know what I mean? Like they were like knelt down or something and they're rising up. And then as they start to kind of grab her or go to follow her and stuff. And so she says that where she's like, they're trying to take me, they're trying to keep me here, which I guess is the whole idea of like this house, right? You know what I mean? And you're trying to run away, and we all go run with her, and we get to see them like do this crazy dance and stuff, this ritualistic, creepy dance. And then they start grabbing us individually, and she's telling us to like run through this tunnel. We got to get out, basically.
This is where it kind of sucked too, because people didn't want to go through the tunnel.
Oh my God. So this was a cool moment. And I actually love the idea of like, you got to get out of here, keep moving, because there was cool stuff they were doing. But yes, our group had one lady who was literally the second lady to go through, trying to go through this tunnel, because I was going to be the third person through the tunnel.
So you saw all this.
So I saw all of it.
Well, describe the tunnel, because if it's a normal tunnel, why couldn't this person go through?
It's one of those tunnels you have in the haunted houses that are just the big air bladders that are like totally pushed together and squished together. So you have to squeeze through it and you're having it pushed against you as you go through. And it's just air and stuff. You usually go through and you usually have your hair all staticky afterwards, kind of a thing.
Yeah, nothing special.
Yeah,
right?
Nothing really special. But again, they have these in haunted houses. You should be used to them. It's uncomfortable to go through them because the whole time is you're just getting pushed on. You're like, when does it end? You can't really see in front of you. You know what I mean? But again, like, just go, right? So I'm with like the main lady who again is like the spirit who's trying to escape. She's the one that grabbed me and brought me over to get released through here. But this couple got grabbed as well. And so the male is first and then the female, and the female's like, trying to start going through. And she's like, I can't go through. And she's like, no, you just have to push through. Like the lady, the actress is being like, just push through. Go ahead and just go. You have to just push through. You know what I mean? She's trying to stay in character and still do this.
Yeah.
And this lady is like, I don't know if I can. I don't know. And she's like, you do it. Here, just push. And she's trying to like kind of push her and show her, you know what I mean? And she's like, I don't know. I can't do it. I can't do it. And she's like, and it's funny because she said at one point, she's like, okay, if you can't, just stand over here. But then she didn't want to be separated from her guy.
Oh.
And so she was all like, and he like tried to grab her hand to be like, just come through.
Yeah.
And so she did. And I remember I went in right after because I was like, I could maybe help push this lady fucking through. Like, we'll just push her through.
Fucking
kind of
dump trucker.
Yeah, because at this point, like, it was taking a while.
She was holding the line up.
She was holding everybody up.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting grabbed individually, slowly at a time to get led through this thing. But now we're all chunked together because this lady wouldn't go.
Yeah.
There was another option. Like the lady said, just stand over here. And you could just go around a different way. You know what I mean? But yeah, she starts to go and she's only like 2-3 feet in. And then she immediately turns around again right into me and is just like, I can't. And so then I pushed my arm to the side to push the bladder and I'm just like, then go back out. And I like push her out. And then I just like charged through and stuff. And so I charged through and her guy's on the other side. And it's funny, I was like, she didn't make it. And he was like,
the
yeah.
house has her.
And then we felt awkward because we're just like the two of us standing there and nobody else was coming through for a while.
It got back. I was at the end of that. I was the last person out. So like it was full on conga line. So I'm stuck in that red room with those ghosts. And now it's like, it's that moment where you're like, they know the gag is up, but you're still there. You know the gag is up,
you're
but
like,
you
we
can't go
get
forward.
You,
yes,
you're here.
So now we're looking around. I'm admiring kind of the set and the lights and like, you know, it's like, hey. So, but that does suck because that really kind of, I mean, she's going to have a hell of a story. So is her guy friend, whether they're married or not. They're like, hey, I remember that time we tried to and you fucking couldn't because you panicked. Like, they're going to have a great story. But for the rest of us, it's like, well, that kind of sucks. But
totally, and it because it stopped our momentum. Like instead of it being like go
get out,
go,
it's a mass exit.
Yeah, we were like kind of standing there waiting for more people to come, and then people finally started coming through, and then we had like a pop, like there was a ghost that like came out of one of the sides to like scare us.
Yeah, that was happening.
And when that happened, that's when I kind of realized, and I looked around the corner and I was like, oh, there's more places for us to go. We should just go. Like we were supposed to just go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this ghost scares you, you continue to move kind of a thing. I was like, but our momentum was just all messed up. So I was like kind of started to go, but then no one was following me. And then I kind of like went back and then I was like, I think we have to, you know, like to the group. I think we got to go I think we go. And then finally like one person started following me. So I was like, okay, I can go now, I think.
You got your sheep.
Yeah, I had to like, I was like, I couldn't be the lone sheep.
That's
but,
true.
You know, so, and then we start going through and sure enough, it's like you're leading out to the exit.
That's
like,
the exit.
Yeah, but you have ghosts popping out at you. She shows up again, the lady who kind of led you through through and is like this way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you have this final big room that's all creepy blue lit, and there's just a bunch of these ghosts like all in it, like
Yeah.
tons of them, and some of them are fake, some are real, kind of an idea, right? Before you exit off onto the porch.
Yeah. And that's
And that was Creep LA Ghosts.
yeah. So okay, that by the way, that's pretty much the recap of it. I mean, again, for the people that are listening, if you don't have tickets, you're not gonna be able to go. But in terms of, there is another immersive show that we've talked about, Delusion. How do you think Creep, this version of Creep, stands up to this version of Delusion? If you had to pick,
It blows it out of the water.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there is no comparison.
No. And don't get me wrong, I don't think this was a strong year for either. Don't get me wrong, the Creep was still good. It still had some really solid moments.
Tell me about that. So since you've done so many versions of what JFI offers, how does this version stand up to previous versions?
Yeah, like I do think so. There was a couple things that I was a little sad about. I think, like we talked about, spacing was an issue. We're crammed into some rooms. You didn't get to see everything sometimes and stuff. Like that was a problem. There was a lot more effects than they usually do. Usually everything's pretty like spot on, you know what I mean?
In terms of like what, practicality, or in terms of like
usually it's like more actor-based, story-based, things like that.
yeah.
There was like special effects, kind of lighting, or like, you know what I mean? Like weird things that would happen instead, which was cool.
Yeah.
But just more different, you know what I mean? Like, which I think was a good addition. I do go like, yeah, that was a fun addition, you know
For
what I mean?
sure.
But different for them. I really miss the splitting up. I really miss it.
Yeah.
There was not nearly enough different stories. You know what I mean? We
Yeah,
had one main
yeah.
storyline. There's literally only one moment they split us up. That's it in this whole thing. When we went to the
Yeah.
prom queen, there was one other room that some other people went into.
Right.
But that's it. That's the only time we got split up. There was no other times you were ever split from the group. So all those couples never got split up and stuff, which was part of the problem, right? With this lady not wanting to split up with her dude, you know what I mean? You know,
We did hurt out a whole lot earlier.
yeah.
Even in Willows, with like, you're in this mansion and you could literally talk to any one of the actors in any point in time, and they would tell you something different about the story,
Yes.
right? You could kind of meander and float, and it would be so rewarding and enriching. And this didn't have that feel. This felt a little more on the rails. This felt a little more
Yeah.
delusion-y than anything else. I do think that I agree with you. I think this is the better of the two immersive offerings that we've done so far. I do think that in terms of like what they've done in the past for Creep or JFI, this is probably one of my least favorite. Not my least favorite is probably Willows, only because it wasn't scary enough for me. It was just
Got
a
it.
little weird.
Okay.
So for me, this is kind of in that window, but obviously, again, I think my favorite is probably the Ghost House or Ghost Light, and then I Know What You Did Last Summer one. But for me, I absolutely agree with you. There was way more special effects in this one, technical special effects.
Yes,
So the
technical.
lighting, they used some popping, some electricity that's kind of used to emulate, I think, when the witch was in their possession state.
Mhm.
I think that the light mapping, as you so eloquently pointed out,
Projection. mapping.
again, 6 months in, she knows everything. And
6 years. Actually more, 16.
I think that was really cool. I think they could have used some of those things in some of like Awake, right?
Mhm.
And House of Creep. I think some of those effects. But you're right. It's been very just actor based and practical and simple effects otherwise. And again, to say that they do a great job with lighting, great job with set design, but it's in terms of like where this ranks in the history of JFI stuff that we've done. I mean, if we've done 5, it's maybe towards the bottom for me.
Yeah.
Still good. But
Agreed. I just really miss the splitting up. And again, like there's so many things they do fantastic. Like to me, it's like you can't beat the acting in it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
we talked great about like Delusion actors, but it's like once you see Creep LA actors, it's hard.
Yeah. I
It's
think
like, oh no, there's a different league. You know what I mean?
and I think it's because it feels more personal. I don't
is.
think Delusion ever felt personal for me this year, or maybe
No.
any year that we've gone.
And Creep LA will do that. And that's what Lizzie said about it too. Lizzie was like, she was like, I think we all had moments where we just, you got something special. Like there was just a moment where it's like, it felt like it was focused on you. Like you specifically had like a moment,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I was like, yeah. And that's what Creep does that they do so well it's just, I did wish that there was more splitting off and things, and that would have required more actors. It would have definitely required more space.
More space.
You know what I mean? So there was some of that I do really, really miss.
Because I mean, the other thing is Downtown Reps mask. I felt like I got a lot of personal attention. In my opinion, to me, that when we got separated way more in that, you know, and I think that I've read the story.
That's true. And you got more story, like different storylines.
You know, it's funny. I love the theme of Ghosts and what JFI did, but I liked my experience with Downtown Rep and Mask a little bit more. But again, I was picked a lot. You weren't ever picked. I was picked twice.
Right.
You know, so that may, you know, you feel special. You have your moment. Sure. But yeah, I'm glad. Again, if you have tickets, congratulations. If you don't, just like Jessica said,
it's still worth it, and especially for the price that it is this year. Like
it's cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. It's not over $100 like it has been. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
So it's a good price for what it is. So that's the thing is I'm like, it still felt completely worth it. It's still, for me, my favorite immersive theater one I've done for this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, so I really still enjoyed it, but yeah, there was things that I just missed, and it's because you know what I mean? Like Lizzie, having never gone to one, she still really enjoyed it. But it's like, we've gone to it once, so we kind of like go, but it could be so much more.
Right.
You know?
Like you mentioned, we are kind of jaded in that fact.
Yeah. So that's the only thing I really missed. But otherwise, thoroughly, it was very enjoyable. And then you got like free swag at the end if you really wanted it. It was there.
True. That's true. They gave us a bag and a couple liquid deaths. It was cool. It was a cool experience.
It was fun.
Yeah. It was really cool.
Yeah. So shout out to Creep. I will still go and do anything that JFI does.
Fucking 100%.
Right? It's the same for you, huh?
Yeah. We love everything they do. But I don't have anything else to say about Ghost. JFI Ghost collaboration or Creep Ghost collaboration. So if you have tickets, congratulations. Enjoy the show.
Groovy.
If you it is groovy. If you don't, every now and then they'll open up, they being JFI, a few extra slots in November. I don't know if they can do that this year because they've done it for the Willows and they've done it for a week.
They have in the past, so maybe just follow them just in case. But you're right, like they have a sponsorship with CBS and stuff, so I don't know if they'll be able to.
I know that's on a timeline, but here's the thing. How about this? Real quick sidebar. If CBS were to be like, you know what, we did our run November 1st, we're out. Does that event need that waiting room that has ghosts?
No,
not at all, right?
No.
So they could just be like,
It's an extra nice addition because of like waiting around, kind of like how we talked about Delusion, like didn't have a lot to wait around in before, where in the past they have.
Yeah.
This had a little bit more to at least do. So even if we had a bit of a longer wait, it wasn't bad. You didn't feel it because you're like, we're taking photos and doing these things.
Right. There's candy there. There's free water.
Yeah, but you definitely didn't need it to enjoy this. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe that's part of it. Maybe at some point they'll be like, you know what? Thanks, CBS. Appreciate the money. Appreciate the exposure, all that stuff. Now we're going to keep our thing going on over here for a little bit. So
it's possible.
Follow them. Tag the socials, be looking for them. But yeah.
Either way, try to go to something they do because it's fantastic.
It's unfucking believable. All right. Well, for Chris
and Jessica,
hit it.
Hit what?
Hit it.